So this is the next part of my model making for the Blenkinsop cog locomotive, and I've come on a fair way from the last video which I posted. Now the two carrying bogies I've already made, and they'll go here on this attachment point and here, and then the central cog bogie is going to fit in here eventually. And I've been working on the body of the locomotive, but also some of the animation, and only by doing this have I got the position of the driving rods, I suppose they are, pistons. These are actually the pistons coming out of the cylinders on the top, and then these are, I suppose, connecting rods of some sort. But anyway, I've got these made and animated, and I'll have a look at that in a minute. But one thing I did find was that when I was making this, I carefully followed the length of these connecting rods from the bottom of the little crank that's vertically pointing to the ground vertically to its position on in the photograph. So if I just let's have a look at this. So I followed the best photo I have, the one actually with the, where is it? It's one with the actual scale. This is the one I'm following. So I made that correct length, but actually when I came to try it out, if you double the length of that crank, it's greater than the amount of travel on that vertical. So clearly there was something not quite right here on this positioning. So I actually had to increase this by 5 inches. So going into the model itself, let's have a look at the animation. And so that's the piston rods going up and down, and this is going to be the cylinder. These are a 2-cylinder engine, so I've got plenty more detail to put in, of course. And as they travel up and down, you can see they come very close to the top. And this is actually, they were off. If I followed this, then they would have been up in the air. So this is cranking round, as you can see, and they go in the opposite direction to the main bogie, although it's not very clear from the G-Max animation. Well, maybe you can see with these dummies the way they're going rather than the teeth of the cogwheel, but it'll generate the correct impression. So if I just stop that a moment, take it back, and you can see also that I've started to bring in some of the metalwork, in particular these two saddle pieces which support the boiler. There's a lot of little details to come in yet, and still the unknowns of the ends of the locomotive, front and back. In doing this, I found I had to bring these side timbers in a bit. They were too far out, and because this has to clear this position down here, this bit here has to clear the gauge, so the gauge is outside of this. This is inside the gauge. The cogwheel is beyond that, so that's why I haven't brought it in yet. I'm going to have to check out its position, its lateral position, and also I need to bring in the bogies just to try them out before I fix with this. But I think overall you can see now how it's beginning to come together. For anybody who's interested in how I do the animation, what I did was with these cranks, because they're actually all connected, the two cranks have you can see there, an axle. You can see an axle running through, there it is, if I highlight it, and there's a dummy, animated dummy, which is controlling it. And the way I do that, of course, is I use the top-down view. There is the dummy, that little highlighted one there, the outer one, I think. Yes, there it is, lit up there. And it actually, you do the animation. Normally you would, in the top and then down is the way to think about it. So the top view, when you would normally go this way, rotating your dummy. But on this, because it's linked in with the cogwheel, it has to go the other way. So while this is going counterclockwise, these are going clockwise, if you look at the side of the locomotive. So these will be going that way round, because that's the way the direction of travel. So these two cogwheels have to go the other way round. And having got that 360 degrees there, I then made additional dummies, or an additional dummy, centered on the bottom of the driving rod here. And that became a, just if I show you the subtree, so there's that first crank, and then if I select the crank rod, that's this one here, that's controlled by this main one, by this crank. And then when I had done that, it meant of course that this rod was spinning around like this. Ooh, that was unfortunate. Spinning around like this, and then I had to go through each frame. If we step the framing through each frame, correcting the angle at which that rod was moving. And in order to ensure that it was the correct position at the top here, I actually put a box in. So if we look at the side view, don't need the polygon count in wireframe. So if I step it through in the wireframe, you'll see that the top end of that cylinder, not this other vertical one here, the vertical one is the piston rod, actually it goes into the piston. The driving rod here, although it swings about, you can see it swinging backwards and forwards like that as the crank turns, I made sure that its end always coincided with the end of the with the correct position on that vertical there. There's a little bit of movement there. Frankly, on these old locomotives, I'm not too worried. It's hardly discernible. It's only when you zoom in. Okay, so that's where I am at the moment with the Blenkinsop locomotive. It is proceeding quite nicely. There are still a lot of details in that to bring in, and still a lot of sorting out to do with regard to the bogies. This will become, all these animated parts will become a bogie, which will attach to the main model. One other thing which I found a very quick way, it was pretty obvious really, very quick way of making a toothed wheel, like a cogwheel, with lots of teeth on it. In fact, that one down there has got 48. So this is a tip really for anybody who's wanting to make such a thing. A quick way of doing it is to choose in the splines is to choose a star and draw yourself a star. There we are. And let's try and make one which is the inner diameter, the inner radius we want is a foot, and the outer radius, we're going to make the teeth about 2 inches long. So it doesn't look like much there, but if we now put in, let's see, for that size, say 48 teeth. Just zoom in, and we've got the basic line. There we are. So that's the. So now, if I was to clone that, well, no, if I was to draw a circle, probably the best way, isn't it? And just center it on there, and this is the way in which I made the wheel. And I was to connect those two splines together and then extrude them. That would give me the cogged wheel. So a quick and easy way of making a cogged wheel for whatever project it is that you're wanting to do. So there we are, just a short video, a short update on the Blenkinsop locomotive. Watch out for the next part, and if you have any comments, queries or suggestions, be very pleased to receive them. And I would especially, if anybody has any photographs or any indication as to the layout of the two ends of the Blenkinsop locomotive. I mean, let's have a look. This is the one in the Science Museum. Luckily it's showing the cogged wheel side, and then there's another one here, photograph of the other side, so I can compare the two. So that gives me something to work upon, and you can see Blenkinsop's rail there. So this one is giving me the colours and the position on the left hand side of the locomotive, and this one at least is giving me the position of things on the right hand side. And I've got to try and work out what all these controls do, although they're not, it's not particularly obvious. I'm not a great one for the, that's got to wrap around there. Okay, so that's the sort of thing that I've got to be looking at in the next one, although I may make this, I think we've got to put it on both sides, haven't we? No, only on the one side by the looks of it. It's a strap on that side, and on top of the strap on this side is this pipe here, which comes down and comes down back down into this, presuming that's a condenser of some sort. So if you have come across online any images, I've got all the side view images I can use, but if you come across any images that could be of use, please do contact me by email on my website, which is the ING for Trains website. If you just type that into Google, ING for Trains, it will take you there straight away. My email contact is on that. So there we are. That's the Blenkinsop locomotive in its latest form. We are on our way. She will be steaming before too long. There's no nameplate on her, but she was called, I think this is the one that was called Salamanca. So at least that gives us something to think about.